With every single passing day, it is becoming increasingly more likely that Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals are absolutely done with one another. And just like a married couple that was once happy but is now falling out of love with one another, the two sides are now going to have to find someone new. But as for Kyler's piece, there are a lot of places where he may end up for the 2026-2027 NFL season, starting first with the odds of him being an Arizona Cardinal again in 2026. Now the odds are looking next to none with what we're hearing from the new coaching staff and also what we are not hearing from Kyler Murray, because that silence has been deafening. The Cardinals, as we stated in a previous video, have less than a month to figure out the situation with Kyler. They either need to trade him or they need to cut him to avoid the roughly $20 million they would owe him if he's still on the roster by March 15th for the 2027 league year. But if for some reason maybe the two sides finally came back together and they made up once again, we may see one more year of Kyler Murray in the desert, even though that looks incredibly unlikely. Moving on to the next team, and a team that I think is a pretty likely target, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers are a team that's been rumored in talks to potentially make a trade offer for Kyler Murray. Who knows if they've already been in talks or not? There's not much info coming from either organization. There was only a tidbit of a rumor that the Steelers were talking to Arizona. So Kyler Murray could potentially be one of those guys who hops into a Steelers uniform and heads over to Pittsburgh, where he could potentially take a mid-team to being a slightly above average team, as is Pittsburgh tradition as of late. Because if you guys win anything other than 8-9 or 9-8 for a season, there'd be something completely wrong. The Miami Dolphins are also trying to ship away their quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, otherwise known as Tua Turn of the Ball Over, as of late, and they are potentially another landing spot that Kyler Murray could find himself with. Since they will not have their quarterback any longer, Jeff Hafley, the new head coach for the Dolphins, is going to have to decide if he wants to go get a different quarterback or if he's going to ride with Quinn Ewers for his first season as the Dolphins head coach. Quinn Ewers did start a few games at the end of the year after Tua was benched, but he left a lot to be desired, so it's going to be interesting to see what Miami tries to do. Could Kyler Murray fill the void? While I do think this is a possibility, I think this is less likely than the Pittsburgh option. The next team on the list that I think might get Kyler Murray is a team that just loves having so many quarterbacks on the roster, but none of those guys ever take them to the next level. And when they do, i.e. Baker Mayfield, they then get rid of that guy because there's no way they're allowed to have a good quarterback. Kyler Murray could find himself being in a Browns uniform next season. And while that might make a guy like Myles Garrett really happy, because that might be the best quarterback that's walked into their doors in a really long time, who knows if it would be enough to lift that offense from complete dog water to slightly above average, or maybe even good. Judkins is going to be coming back from an injury. He showed flashes of being a new franchise running back for this team, but that injury might be a setback that brings his value down quite a bit. The Browns are also hurting in the wide receiver room, and they need to find a piece or two more to help strengthen that team up on offense for whatever quarterback they end up having. Now, the new head coach Todd Monken came in and introduced himself to Shedeur Sanders in a quite happy way.
Hello, young man.
What's up, Casey? How you doing? Welcome back to the States.
How we doing, man?
Good.
Yeah, we tried to draft your ass last year. For God's sake. It's all worked out.
Yeah.
You remember that, right?
Yeah, that's what I was about to tell you.
Someday we'll get a chance to talk about that. Yeah. Awesome. Well, sit down.
But if Todd Monken is so happy to have a guy like Shedeur, Kyler Murray is just a faster, more athletic version of Shedeur. So it could be a potential landing spot for Kyler if the Cleveland Browns want to go all in on another quarterback, because we all know Deshaun Watson ain't going to do anything for them. And other than that, you have two guys just coming off their rookie seasons who may need some more time to develop under a veteran quarterback. Not like Kyler Murray would take any time to mentor any of those young guys. He'd be too busy telling them that he likes baseball more than football and playing Call of Duty Warzone. Now let's move on to another team that I think that Kyler Murray could be on next year. The Carolina Panthers improved mightily last season, and Bryce Young had his biggest step forward that we have seen in his career so far. But he still had many games last season where he looked absolutely terrible. And even though they took a step forward, my big question at the end of the season was, would the Panthers want to stick with Bryce Young or try to find a quarterback that's a little bit better? I think Kyler Murray is a better quarterback than Bryce Young. So while you had a team take a big step forward, maybe it's time to get a little bit of new flavor and a little bit of new spice in that quarterback room, and having the small but versatile Kyler Murray, who's able to show flashes of brilliance from time to time, could be what the Panthers need to lift them to a little bit higher highs than where they're at right now, if they do decide to have Bryce be their backup or get rid of Bryce and move on from him. From what I'm feeling right now, the general vibe is that they're going to keep going with Young. I don't know, Carolina, this might be a good move for you though. This is a move I think is kind of unlikely, but I wanted to throw it in there because I've seen a couple reports that it could possibly happen. The Atlanta Atlanta Falcons could possibly be interested in getting a guy like Kyler Murray. Michael Penix Jr. has shown that he has been very injury prone in his first year of football. I don't know if he got injured, 2, 3, 4 times last season, but every time he came back, he got injured again and left. And while he had 1 or 2 really good games, he had a couple games that were just terrible. Remember when they lost 30-0 against the Panthers last year? I remember because I had Penix starting on my fantasy team that day. This is another situation similar to Carolina, and we know that teams sometimes have a tendency to not be loyal whatsoever. One season they could say they're loyal to a player, and the next season they could completely change their mind. There's a completely new coaching staff coming into Atlanta with Kevin Stefanski being the leader as the new head coach. Matt Ryan is now the president of football operations or something like that. I don't know the exact title, but I think I nailed it. And he'll no doubt have some input on who the next quarterback is going to be, whether it's Penix or whether it's someone else. But could Kyler Murray be a potential suitor? I thought it was worth throwing in here in case the franchise feels like maybe Penix isn't the guy. Another team that had a rookie quarterback start last season and is probably punching air right now because they let Sam Darnold go, the Minnesota Vikings. And we all know how that turned out with J.J. McCarthy, or should I say 9.
Do you go to a different place in your mind, like on game day?
I feel like I do. Yeah, there's definitely a level of a switch that gets flipped. For me, I call him 9. 9 comes out, and I got to understand, okay, he can't be at his peak performance throughout 3.5 hours. So how do I find little ways, on the sideline, get back to my breath, get back to my visualization that could kind of maintain that intense, competitive stamina throughout the whole game.
The Minnesota Vikings last year were a disappointment based on where everyone projected them to be. They completely missed the playoffs after going 14-3 last year with Sam Darnold, and their best football was played when Carson Wentz was the starter. And there could be some people in that front office who are not a big fan of J.J. McCarthy at this point, or the decisions that have been made over the past year with this team. Because there is no doubt about it, the decisions that were made with this Vikings franchise over the last year have made them increasingly worse. You let go of Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones in the same year and let them go be really good quarterbacks last season with both of the teams that they ended up playing for in Seattle, the Super Bowl champion of Super Bowl 60, and Indianapolis with Daniel Jones, who could very well have ended up playing in the Super Bowl against the Seahawks and Sam Darnold. If he didn't get hurt and they ended up making it to the playoffs, you never know. It could have been the 2 Viking quarterbacks they let go going head-to-head in the Super Bowl, so I don't blame them for firing the GM. It's a total mess there in Minnesota, but could that mean that J.J. McCarthy's time in Minnesota is already over with, or maybe he'll end up being the backup? If so, that could mean that a guy like Kyler Murray could slip right in there and have another top elite receiver to be his #1 target. He's already been able to throw to DeAndre Hopkins in his career, and that went pretty well for him and Hopkins. Could he maybe now have Justin Jefferson be one of his targets? It would be interesting to see how that dynamic played out, where the quarterback is actually a bigger diva than the wide receiver. But keep your eyes out for Minnesota, because they could come in here and try to sneak Kyler while no one else is watching. And last, and definitely least, you have the New York Jets, a team that's always looking to ruin another quarterback's career every single season. This year it was Justin Fields. The last couple seasons before that, they couldn't even win with Aaron Rodgers, and they had a massively great defense at the time. They traded away Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner from that elite defense last season, giving Sauce Gardner to the Colts, which didn't really end up helping them out in the long run. And Quinnen Williams went to the Dallas Cowboys. He also did not help them make the playoffs either. Granted, either way, both of those two are fantastic players who will end up elevating the teams that they are on eventually. But the Jets are an absolute mess. The owner last year basically said Justin Fields sucks without directly saying it. I mean, he kind of did directly say it.
It looks like he's turning around parts of it. It's hard when you have a quarterback with, with a rating that we got. He has the ability, but something just is not jiving. But if you look at any head coach with a quarterback like that, you're going to see similar results if you go across the league. You have to play consistently with, at that position, and that's what we're going to try to do.
So much to the point that the quarterback ended up crying in the closet that entire evening, and he admitted to that.
I'm going to get pretty vulnerable right here, but I found myself in my closet crying, on the ground, laying down. Not because of the hardships, not because of the troubles. I felt like, I was built to handle that, and I was put in place to handle this situation. But in that moment when I was talking to my best friend, how hard it was, and just not wavering faith-wise.
And while I don't think Justin Fields is necessarily a starter at the NFL level, I think he could be a good backup. I think it's incredibly stupid and scummy for an owner to throw their starting quarterback under the bus like that. And this guy's been known to be one of the worst owners in football. So could the Jets be trying their best to pull a Kyler Murray in and see if they can do something with him? Well, I may not be the biggest Kyler Murray fan, but I certainly hope that they don't get him, because I feel like with some of these other teams, he could potentially do something positive and be pretty exciting to watch with some of these teams. But I do not think that he could turn the Jets around in any way. I really don't think a single quarterback on this planet could turn the Jets around. But boy, would it be interesting to watch the dynamic between that owner and Kyler Murray. I mean, if he doesn't want to play for the Arizona Cardinals, you think he's going to want to play for the Jets? He'd much rather probably want to go play with the Browns or something like that. Either way, it's my prediction that he's going to end up with one of these teams. I know that's like 8 out of the 32 NFL teams we've talked about today that he could potentially end up with. That's basically 25% of the entire league. But that's just how many options that the Cardinals and that Kyler Murray are going to have to decide of, like, if he becomes a free agent, he gets to decide where he wants to go. And in that case, I think the Vikings and the Steelers and the Dolphins are top targets for him. If he ends up being traded, who knows where he ends up. But the Cardinals have 1 month to get him out of there to avoid the $19.5 million they would have to pay him if he's still on their roster by March 15th. So you can guarantee the Cardinals are scrambling for the next 28 to 30 days to find a trade for him, to at least get some value back for him, and maybe get a little bit of that salary taken away where they don't have to pay all of it. Otherwise, they're just going to have to cut him and make him a free agent. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Do let me know which team you think he's going to land on down in the comments below. Do you think it's one of the teams we talked about in today's video, or do you think a sleeper team like maybe the Indianapolis Colts will sneak in there? Just let me know who you think gets Kyler Murray down in the comments below for the 2026 season. Subscribing is totally free. Becoming a member is only $2 per month if you want to help support the great videos I'm making on the channel. I do appreciate it. As we grow each and every month, I will eventually be rolling out more exclusive stuff for members. But for now, it is essentially just supporting me continue to grow my channel as we are now monetized. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope that every one of you have a fantastic day. I'll see you very soon in the next video. Until then, bye-bye.